ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon, and you're listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network, watching us on Broadway World over on socials and on YouTube. You know, I sometimes see that there are things being done around the country, and I wish I could just zip to LA. I might have to zip to LA because if you don't know, when I was doing a show called Quarantine Cabaret and Cocktails, during COVID, we spent Christmas Eve with Carole Cook on this show. And it was such an honor. And she was a trip, and she had the only pooty mouth and the only cute Texas accent. And her husband is such a sweetheart. And it was really special. We held up Italian dinner in my mother's house to talk to Carole Cook on Christmas Eve. So when I see Mason McCulley's got a show running at the Skylight Theater in Los Angeles this fall, literally for a 3-week engagement from October 20th until November 10th, I could not be more excited to hear, how did Carole Cook die for all of our sins? What is the connection? What is Mason's story and journey? Mason McCulley, welcome to the Round Table.
Oh my goodness, what an introduction. Thank you for having me. This is so fun. And you know what? I was watching that Quarantine Cabaret on Christmas Eve with my family, and it was either you or Lee said on it, I tried to find it, said the McCulley family is watching from Alabama. And we were all there watching in my sister's living room, and we had, it was a whole thing.
That's you?
Yeah, that was me. So I quite remember that. It was very fun. So,
well, for this little gay boy, Carole Cook, and then Melissa Manchester on Christmas Eve was like a gay extravaganza.
Same for this gay boy as well.
So thank you for saying all that. You, Insecure, Mom, Young Sheldon, these different television work and acting and being an actor out there in the West Coast. Sure. But you have done all of those things, but something in your head to wake up and say, I'm going to write a solo show and perform it. How, why, when, where?
Okay, right. Okay. Where do I begin? Where do I begin with you? Where do you want me to begin? I'll try to just go there. Okay.
Please.
This is what happened. So, January of 2023, my dear friend and confidant and muse, Carole Cook, passed away. And I went on this 2-week sort of bender in West Hollywood and hit rock bottom and woke up on January 25th and found myself, or started to find myself, made the decision to find myself. And I started the first thing I did was I quit drinking. And meanwhile, my mother was dying as well. And I ended up your audience will love this. Carole passed away in January of 2023. May of 2023, I am on my way from LA to New York to go see Annaleigh Ashford in Sweeney Todd. Annaleigh is a dear friend, and she was my roommate for 2 years when she was filming Masters of Sex in LA. And I introduced Annaleigh and Carole, and it's a whole thing. And so I was on my way, literally on my way to LAX to go to New York. I'd been waiting to go see her in Sweeney Todd, and my sister calls me and she says, they're putting a hospital bed in Mom's room. My mother had been diagnosed with frontal temporal dementia in 2015. And Carole was very much, looking after me during my mother's sickness. And so I said to my sister, I was like, okay, is Mom dying? Is that what this is? And she goes, I think that's what this is. And I said, do I come home? And she said, not yet. She goes, you don't need to come home yet. She said, you need to go to New York and you need to go see Annaleigh and Sweeney Todd. You've been looking forward to this. That's when the magic came back into my life. I remember being in New York, and I remember feeling Carole around me. And I went and visited 16 Minetta Lane, where Tom Troop, Carole's husband, first lived in the 50s. And I could feel something coming back to me in my life. Life had been so dark for so long. And I went and saw Annaleigh and Sweeney Todd, and then I flew back home to Alabama. And my mother passed 3 days later. And that's when the journey began. And in January of 2024, this past January, I felt a call to New York. I felt a call to go to New York, and the call was made by Carole Cook. And I told my family, I said, I'm going to New York, and I've subleased this apartment for several months, and I don't know why I'm going, but I know that it's something big, and I know that it's something to do with my story. And after my mother passed away, I started to see the light again in my life. I started to see magic, and I started to believe in things again. And I was having all of these truths. These truths were coming to me, and I was discovering all of these things, and I was finding myself again. And I knew that I was going to New York to find out how I was supposed to tell that story. I did not know that it was going to be a play. I'm an actor. I started in the theater. That was not why I went to New York. I went to New York because that's where Carole started, and I felt pulled there. I didn't know if it was going to be a book. I didn't know if it was going to be another form of art. January 15th, I get to New York, and 4 days later, I found this play, this idea for this play. And what happened was I realized that I thought that I was going to share the magic. I thought that I was going to share the light and the truth that I'm finding and all of these beautiful things that existed. But I realized that in order to share the truth and the magic and the light, I had to share the darkness first. I did not know that I was going to be sharing the darkness, and the play is all of it. It's dark and light. But I had to sort of share where it began, and I had to share my truth and my darkness. And that's why it's called Carole Cook Died for My Sins, because after Carole died, she was the one thing that I believed in during, my mom's sickness. It was Carole. I just stopped when my mom got sick. I stopped believing in everything, but I believed in Carole. Carole, I believed in because I could see her. She was there, and then when she left, it was all over. But I started to believe in things again. So when Carole died, it started to come to. And in the play, I tell my truth. Everything that I share in those 75 minutes on stage actually happened, and it's sometimes I say the things that happened and I cannot believe that they happened. And from darkness to light, I literally tell them. And, oh, was that you or me?
That I don't know, but we're okay.
Okay. So anyway, so that's where it all began. And I don't know. I'm talking quite a bit.
No, I literally, my jaw hit the floor if you were listening to us, because I didn't know. I knew, reading the press release, how close you were to Carole. I knew there was a connection to your mom. I knew that was a time. But to hear it out of your own words and the emotion and the depth, and to hear you talk about your bender in West Hollywood and the idea of running from the pain and trying to find out who you are, these are some deep. And I know Carole is a comedic genius, and I know that you are an actor's actor. So I know that there are fun moments and funny moments, and I know
it's very funny. It is a very, I will say this, the piece is everything. It is, first of all, it's directed by Cameron Watson, who is an incredible director, who has been a mentor to me and knew Carole very well. He's been a mentor to me for about 15 years. And I'm so grateful that he's guiding me through this. The play is everything. It hits everything. It is poignant, but it is also very, very funny. And it's funny because I had to go back and I had to look at the darkness, and I had to look at my mother's sickness. And I'm not changing anything, but my perspective has changed because I'm not in it anymore.
Right,
I'm not in that. So there are moments I look back and I'm like, let me tell you this story. The stories weren't all funny at the time. Some of them were quite heartbreaking, and some of them were quite sad, and some of them were quite shameful. But I look back and I go, you know what? I'm not that anymore. And so why don't we I'm not afraid to go there. I mean, sometimes I think about it and I'm like, I cannot believe I'm going to get on stage and tell all this, but I'm not that anymore. And, I had an awakening, and the awakening was, holy crap, I'm here, and I'm still here. In the words of Carole Cook, I'm still here. And what do I do with it?
Well,
what do I do with it?
I'm
so
sure
this is what I'm doing with it.
Carole would be so proud of you. And
she's here.
And your mom would be so proud of you.
100%.
And we are all, I don't even know you, Mason, but I'm so proud of you, because I think I'm obsessed with one-man shows, one-person shows. Yeah. I think that they are the most vulnerable, hard, beautiful, exhilarating things ever. And I think that you have one heck of a story here. And I know that people are going to be very moved. When I first saw it, I thought, what is this about? But what you're talking about is universal. We all can relate.
It is. It's quite universal. And the reason I want to do this is because the biggest message, the play is not a play about Carole Cook. Carole Cook's in the play because she was a big piece of my life. But the play is about my journey, and the biggest message is, and I call it my sermon and my gospel, and I want to shout it from the rooftops, is that if you are in a place and it feels like forever, it isn't. it isn't forever. You do not have to stay there, but it is up to you to get out of that place. And getting out of that place was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, but it was worth it, and it is still worth it. I'm working on myself every single day. Sometimes I fail, and you'll see that in the play. That's the biggest message, and it's universal. Grief is universal, and we don't talk about it enough. We know how it's going to end for all of us. Every single person listening to this, every single person watching this, we all know how it's going to end. We're going to die. That's how it ends. What do we do in the meantime? And what does it mean for those of us that are still left? If I didn't do this play, I wouldn't know where Carole and my mother were. I wouldn't. And that was the impetus for this, is that they're not gone. And now I do know where they are. And I am so excited to share this because, it is very entertaining. And I know that. When I called Cam from New York. The play wasn't even done yet. I called him, and this was probably April. And I said, I have been waiting to call you. I have this idea. You have to tell me if I've lost my mind or if I've found it. And I shared, these truths with him, and he was like, we're going to do this, and we're doing it. And I am so excited to share it. I have the most amazing creative team on board. I have my friend Jessica Rutter doing music. I mean, the whole team is incredible. And we're taking this story and this poem, and we're bringing it to life with visuals and color, and I'm thrilled. I can't believe it's happening.
It's happening, everybody.
It's happening.
It's really happening October 20th to November 10th at the Skylight Theater, which is right on Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Some of the shows are sold out. Yes. So you need to go to carolecookdiedformysins.com and get your tickets. They are less than your phone bill. They are.
Yes, it's worth it. I promise. It doesn't disappoint. That's a big promise. But I promise it doesn't disappoint. And when I called Cam in New York, I said, Cam, the reason the show is so good is because it's true. I get on stage and I tell the truth, all of it. And when you tell the truth, it makes for a good story.
Well, they're $40, Mason. You can't even buy a burrito for $40 in that game.
Yeah, nowadays.
So, Mason, here's my question for you.
Yes,
you say it's hard. There's hard, and without spoiling it, is there a subject? Is there a part of it is there a part of the show? Is it the vulnerable, sad parts? Is it the, oh my God, I can't believe I did that and I'm saying it in front of people parts? Like, what is the part that makes you cringe?
The part that I don't cringe yet. I've gotten over the cringe. The part that makes me, well, I will tell you this. When we did a private reading, of the show in West Hollywood, and at the reading there were about 25 people there, and I didn't plan this. I just remembered that there was one left, and what I did was my friend Krista Makovina, who's a brilliant artist, she's painted something very, very special that is a big piece of the play, and it has to do with Carole. And at the reading, she painted every single person a feather. Is a pink feather, and they're all different. And the feathers represent the feather. They represent, a dress that Carole had that was full of pink feathers, but they represent the feathers that we are going to ruffle when we do this play. And I'm ruffling feathers because I'm pushing back on some things, and I'm questioning some things, and I'm proclaiming some things that that go against the way this kid from Alabama was raised. And that makes me the most excited, but it also makes me a bit nervous because I don't know how people will react to those things. But that's also the fun of it. And that's also the art of it. I mean, I have my father and my sisters flying in for it. And I told my dad, I said, because I've lived in LA for 20 years. And I said, Dad, if you've ever had any questions about what I've been up to for 20 years in Los Angeles, after you see this play, you will have, you'll know what I was up to. You might have even more questions, but you'll know exactly what I was up to. So that probably answers your question. I mean, in the explanation or the brief breakdown of the play, I talk about sex, sobriety, and salvation. I celebrate sex, sobriety, and salvation. I celebrate sex. So that's in there. And anyway, it's exciting and it's real and it's human. And yes.
You better tell your story, Mason. Carole Cook died for my. Get it together. I can't even speak after hearing that description. I'm aghast. I can only imagine those WeHo nights, Mason, out in these streets for 20 years. And I'm sure Carole would get a kick and a hoot out of this being up on a stage. If you're looking at Mason and you're saying he looks awfully familiar to me, you've had quite the television career over these past 20 years.
You know, I've been very, very fortunate. I'm a guest star actor. I've been on a lot of really cool shows as a guest star, which is amazing. I get to pop in on these sets and see all these amazing people and these series regulars and see these brilliant machines that work. And my favorite, I can't say my favorite, but one of the most impactful and one that I'm so proud of is when I was working on Insecure. I got to work on the HBO series Insecure for 3 seasons with Issa Rae, and it was such a gift, and it actually happened. I booked that pilot fall of 2015, right before my mother was diagnosed. And then I got 3+ years being on that show while my mom was sick. And when I left the show, I told the writers and the producers and the cast, I said, you guys gave me a gift. You guys gave me something to talk about. And as actors and performers, especially as actors, we have to have something to talk about. What are you up to? What are you up to? Well, I got to say I was on this HBO show called Insecure. You got to give me something to wake up for. And you got to give me something to be excited about and to believe in. And so that was incredible. Another one that I'll highlight, which meant a lot to me, was I had a penis transplant on Grey's Anatomy.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And Debbie Allen was my surgeon. That was incredible. Like, that was an amazing. It was to be on that set on that such iconic show. Like, that was incredible. So yeah, I've been able to like stick my head in on some of these really, really incredible shows.
Well, the streets say Debbie Allen is a good time.
She was, oh my God. And then the best part, so we did, she came in and she was my surgeon on Grey's Anatomy, and then she directed me on Insecure. Like, it was this full circle moment. It was incredible. So I've had fun.
Well, I have to say that for me, one of the best television shows of all. I mean, I fanned out in LA. I drove to the Insecure house because I was such a fan of the show. I binge watched it. I was late to the party, but Ken, for those seasons here, Mason's Ken is a great character. We've had Amanda on the show. We've had people from this show here.
That show was incredibly part of that show, and I'll tell you why. We filmed the pilot and we filmed it on location, and I remember I brought my own clothes to set. I didn't have any lines in the pilot, and everyone, there's all this hubbub about it. Everyone was talking about what it's going to be, and then cut to, I don't know, however many months later, we're doing a table read at HBO. We end up filming at Sony Studios. They recreated everything we filmed in the pilot. The workspace was filmed on a soundstage. And Sony, it was unbelievable. It was truly unbelievable. And it was really, really, like, the most inspiring part was to watch, like, Issa especially, and a lot of other brilliant cast members in that show. Yvonne Orji has become a dear friend. To watch them rise. Like, that was so cool to watch them, become these figures in Hollywood and to make waves and to make noise. It was a privilege to be a part of that show. I always say I was a small part on a very big show.
Well, if you have not watched Insecure, people, what have you been doing? I mean, you got to now watch it because Mason is a friend to our show. So now I feel like I'm on Insecure because I'm talking about it.
It's an amazing show.
And we love Jay Ellis. I think he's one of the
best. Love Jay Ellis.
Amazing actor. His book is out, so go buy it. But I see, I'm a fan. I'm a fan out.
Yeah, I love that.
You just fan out about certain things.
And Natasha Rothwell has a new show on Hulu.
Yes, she does. So
yeah.
Good.
We're all making waves. It's incredible.
So, and meanwhile, you decided to take the time to write a show. How many times did you edit this show? How many times have you read it out loud. How many
Oh
times?
my goodness, God. Well, I have a meeting after this with Cameron. We're still working on it. And the thing is with a show like this, it's a storytelling piece and it's all true and it all happened. We get into the theater very, very soon and it's all it'll judge and it'll shift. And it started when I met with Cam, he said, lay it all out there, lay it all out there, lay all of it out there. And it was a lot. It's still a lot. One day it'll be a book. And then you have to take it. You have to take all the pieces of the puzzle. You take all the memories and all the stories and all the things. And you have to sort of go like this. And you have to tell the exact same story, but it has to get more and more concentrated. And so there's been a whole lot. It's been so therapeutic to go through all of these moments and all of these enlightened moments, but also these very, very moments that were originally surrounded by shame, and to sort of how is it that I'm going to tell the story and tell the truth, but go like this so the audience isn't there for 3.5 hours.
I get it. Well, I know I do cabaret, which is, it's not a one-man show, but like the hardest part.
It is your storytelling.
The hardest parts of the show, talking about my sexuality, talking about the days I was married to a woman and had to come out to my parents and on my own crazy journey. The parts that are the scariest for me to tell are the parts that resonate the most with the audience, because there's something so universal in being vulnerable, and it may not lived your experience, but they lived a similar experience, and it's healing to the audience. So the work you're doing is really service to the audience, because you are letting them feel better about the choices and decisions they made.
Yeah, and you, and as are you, and that's what we do as performers, especially in the theater. You cannot. That's what Carole was so brilliant about. You cannot tell these stories without an audience. We live such in a digital age, and I love the digital age because here we are. Me and you would not be able to do this without the digital age. But the reason we love theater so much is because it happens. We're all breathing the exact same air, and we're telling the story in front of each other. And Carole knew how important her audience was, and she knew, at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're relating to each other, and we're saying, guys, we're all here and we're all the same. We're different. We're so different. But look at all these pieces of us that are actually the same and quite, have the same human experience. And that's what theater is. That's what, be it comedy, drama, in between. That's what theater is. It's us getting together, and it's celebrating the fact that we're still here and, we're breathing and living. And yeah, I'm so excited. It's been a minute since I've been on the stage. So this is, I feel like it's full circle. It feels full circle.
I'm excited for you. I'm so excited for this story to be told. I'm excited for people to, if you don't know Carole Cook, you have to look her up. I mean, you should. She's a legend and an icon for sure. We could follow you on social media.
Yes, look at that. Follow me.
Follow, say hey. So make sure you get your tickets at Carole Cook Die for My Sins. Before I let you go, maybe it's a part of the show and it's a spoiler. How, she was 98 years old.
3 days shy of 99 when she passed.
And I thought of her the day she passed, and I thought of Lee, and I thought of all the people that are close. Now that I know you, Mason, I thought of all the people that she was influential to in that time for sure. And what 98-year-old woman and you, not 98. There's a huge age difference. She's a Southern belle, and you're from. But like, what was it that drew your friendship and closeness together?
Oh gosh, I'll try to make this brief. Well, I should have led with this. This is the best part. I met Carole when I was 18 years old. The only time she reprised the role of Dolly Levi in Hello, Dolly. She was the second Dolly after Carol Channing. She did it in 1965. She reprised it in the summer of 2001 in Birmingham, Alabama, where I grew up. And it was through her friend Fannie Flagg, who wrote Fragrant Tomatoes, that got her to Birmingham to do it. I was in the audience. I think I saw the show 4 or 5 times. And I didn't know who she was. And I opened up the program and was just in awe of this creature, in awe of this creature. And then through the magic of theater and Hollywood, and through my friend Cameron Watson, who's directing the play, Carole came back into my life in a very, very big way. And we saw each other, in almost a 60-year age difference. We saw each other and she saw me. And I remember thinking this, one thing that she taught me, thinking this at her memorial. We had a 60-year age difference, and yet when I came into her life, she and I became very, very important to each other. And that being said, you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And what I so admired about Carole is that she did it until the very end. Yeah, I'll tell you this. She did 54 Below. She did a one-woman show at 54 Below in 2018, and then she was performing up until I think 2019 in Palm Springs. But had it not been for COVID, that woman would have gone. She would have kept going. She was a consummate performer, and she taught me that you have to keep going, and you don't know what's next. You don't know what magic is going to happen. And I'll leave you, because I talk a lot. I'll leave you with this. When she first got to New York in the 50s. Before Lucille Ball discovered her, before she changed her name from Mildred Francis to Carole, she got to New York and she was schlepping and she was doing all these jobs and odd jobs and auditions. And she said, Mason, when I lived in New York, I always thought something amazing was just about to happen. And it did. That's life magic and that's theater magic.
Yes. And that is, I hope, the mantra for everybody out here, that we are so defeated. We're so negative. We are so beaten down. But tomorrow, and I say this because I'm a corny theater kid nerd myself,
Same.
but tomorrow you could wake up and something magical can happen just as much as something terrible could happen. So let's focus on the magic.
More so. It
Yes.
is more likely for something magical to happen than for something terrible to happen. I say this all the time. That's the reason insurance companies make so much money. Insure, because the likelihood of it happening isn't very good. And you have to be awake to it. You have to be awake to it. And you have to be, keep your eyes open.
It was magic in the perspective. It's all about finding it. You're magical, and it was magical to spend
As
time.
are you, and I want to thank you again for having me. What a treat.
It is a pleasure. I hope that this show continues. I hope that it comes to New York. I hope it travels around the country. I hope you get your tickets, LA. Where are you? Come on out and about. Make sure you go to CaroleCook.com. The show is coming. It is 3 weeks, so you got to get your tickets and see it before they're all sold out. Mason, congratulations. We look forward to seeing you on stage and screen, all everywhere.
Thank you.